YouTube, how are you now? So Delta Force just released their week-long demo on PC. So if you have Steam, you can just download the demo for the next week on PC. So figured I would gather all the stats from in the game for all the weapons to put together this time to kill chart. So all these stats come from in the game itself. So you have all your weapons here, your control, which I believe is the recoil control you're handling, so I would assume that affects either aim down sight or maybe movement speed or swap speed. Stability, that would probably be aiming stability, so weapon sway, and then accuracy. I would assume there's some type of dispersion or bloom, so the higher the accuracy, the less dispersion and bloom. And then armor penetration, I would assume that's for the extraction mode, not for the Havoc Warfare, like Conquest type thing. And then your ammo capacity, your bullet velocity, and then your rate of fire. And then your damage for your head, upper torso, lower torso, and your limbs, so your arms and legs have the same damage values. So damage values for each range, 5 meters all the way out to 95 meters, and then one range is 120 plus, so I just threw that on there as well. So all the weapons here for your rifles, and your SMGs, shotguns, LMGs, marksman rifles, sniper rifles, and your pistols. So not all these weapons can be used by certain classes, so each operator has a specific set of weapons they can use because they're classified into like assault, healing, support, recon. So you don't have access to all the weapons for each character, but depends which operator you have. That gives you the weapons you can use. So some of these numbers here may not be 100% accurate to the game, so basically they give you the first damage values and then like multipliers for the damage drop off, so it depends on how they use those multipliers. So I rounded the numbers down, so it depends if they use decimal values or if they round up, if it's like half or higher, but I rounded down on all of them. So if they use decimals or round up, it could be slightly different. It could affect the bullets to kill and the time to kill slightly, but I just rounded down unless it went to the next value. So if it was like 25.7, I rounded down to 25. But if they use that 0.7 or round it up to 26, it may change things slightly, but I don't think it's going to make too big of a difference. So yeah. So this is your time to kill in milliseconds here. So this is your theoretical fastest time to kill possible if you're hitting every single shot at the fastest fire rate possible. Obviously, if you're missing shots due to recoil or enemies moving around, that kind of stuff, it's not going to be these numbers, but this is your theoretical fastest time to kill if you hit 100% of your shots at the fastest fire rate possible. So basically, the fastest time to kill is going to be in red. The second fastest time to kill is going to be in orange, so within 50 milliseconds is the fastest time to kill. Within 100 milliseconds is going to be yellow. Within 150 is going to be light green. Within 200 is dark green, so on and so forth. So ideally, you're going to want red, orange, yellow. You don't want any of these numbers, these colors down here, because that just means they're going to be completely out of competitiveness based on the ranges and that kind of stuff. So I just compare the weapons within each class, so the rifles with the rifles, SMGs with SMGs, so on and so forth. So just going to go through the list here. Each gun and how they perform. So the Car 15 is decent up close, not that great at mid-range, can be okay at longer range, but definitely mostly only usable up close. PTR 32 is actually really good up close, unless you're hitting the limbs, then it's okay, but not the best. And then mid-range is pretty good too, but then it falls off at the longer ranges. QBZ 95-1 is not very good at all. Not at any range. I mean, it's not terrible. So within 150 milliseconds, within 200 milliseconds, the fastest time to kill, but not the greatest there is. SG 552 is really good out to about mid-range, as long as you're accurate with your shots. Even if you're hitting the lower torso, it's decent, but out to about 40 meters. But beyond that, it falls off a bit. And then if you're hitting limbs, it's not as good either. But definitely rewards the accuracy out to mid to long range. AKS 74 is not very good unless you're hitting all upper torso. It's decent if you're hitting all upper torso, but not very good beyond that 30 meters, even if you're hitting upper torso. So G3, decent if you're hitting upper torso. It's actually really good in the mid-range if you're hitting upper torso, and decent if you're hitting lower torso as well. So it's more like a mid-range gun, not that great up close, especially if you're not hitting upper torso shots, but mid-range is pretty good. AKM, same thing, out to mid-range, it's decent if you're hitting upper torso, but then beyond that, it's just not very good at all. AK-12's decent up close, so it doesn't really matter where you're hitting them. It's still going to be pretty competitive time to kill out to, what range is that, 30 meters? And then beyond that, it's not that great though. M4A1, same thing, but definitely penalizes if you're hitting the limbs. But beyond that, it's not very good either. AS-FAL is really good up close, even at mid-range, as long as you're hitting upper torso. If you're hitting lower torso, it's not as good as some of the other guns, but still pretty good. AUG, not very good at all. Not very good at anything, really. It has decent mid-range, but not very good. Very small window there to be okay. Ash 12, very good at long range. Probably the best overall AR, even though it's not usable by a lot of the classes, but not the greatest if you're hitting lower torso. It's still competitive, but not the greatest, but it's very good pretty much everywhere else compared to any of the other assault rifles. M7's good up close, even out to pretty long range, out to 70 meters as long as you're hitting upper torso, but if you're starting to hit the torso, it's not as good, but if you're hitting limbs, it's still faster than some of the other guns, so really depends, but it's pretty decent out to pretty good range there. And then the K416 is good up close and then falls off at that mid-range, so out to about 20 meters and beyond that, it's not that great. It's not terrible, but not that great either, even though it has the fastest fire rate at 880 rounds per minute, so it's more forgiving, but not the greatest as far as pure time to kill goes. But that's true of pretty much all the assault rifles. None of them really stand out other than the Ash 12. They all have their niches where they perform better than others, but none of them really stand out as the best overall other than the Ash 12. Then you got your SMGs, Uzis, decent up close, even out to mid-range. Definitely rewards more accuracy if hitting upper torso, but then beyond that, it's terrible. Even compared to the other SMGs. So Bison's decent up close. If you're hitting limbs though, falls off a little bit, and then beyond 15 meters, it's pretty bad. The Vityaz, same thing. It's decent up close, out to 15 meters. Beyond that, falls off a bit. Not as bad as the Bison, but it still falls off pretty hard. And then SMG 45, it's not that great up close unless you're hitting upper torso, but it's pretty good at mid-range. One of the best at mid-range, even regardless of where you're hitting them. But up close is not the greatest unless you're hitting upper torso. Then it's semi-competitive but not the best. MP5 is really good up close. One of the best up close, and really good out to mid-range too. So not the best at some of these things, but it's still really good out to mid-range. And then the SR3M, definitely the standout for the SMGs. Very good up close. Not the fastest, but very close, within 50 milliseconds, and then beyond that, the best pretty much at everything. So close range, it's like top 3, and then beyond that, it's the best by far. But you do only have a 15-round magazine capacity. You're definitely going to need extended mags if it has it available. P90 is decent up close, okay at mid-range, but it does have some fall-off points where it's going to not perform too great. So like within 15 to 25 meters is not the greatest, and then within 35 to 45 meters is not the greatest either. And it's pretty bad at long range too. The Vector's best up close, really good at mid-range too, but it does have a fall-off point here. And that weird mid-range 15 to 25 meters, if you're hitting the torso, it's not that great compared to some of the other SMGs, but overall it's really good out to mid-range, and then beyond that, not the greatest either. But very fast fire rate, so the most forgiving there. Shotguns, so I didn't do time to kill, just basically the damage here, and then you have 8 pellets per shot, so the damage here is times 8, but that's if you hit every pellet, so depends on how big the hip fire spread is, how tight you can get it, but you're probably not going to be able to hit all 8 pellets unless you're dead center and pretty close, but the max damage you can possibly get is these numbers times 8, and then beyond these ranges you can't do damage at all. So M870 beyond 80 meters you won't even do any damage, and then these two beyond 50 meters you won't do any damage at all, even if you're hitting pellets. LMGs, so there's only 2 LMGs. You can only use them with the support class. They're pretty similar. They just kind of vary depending on how you want to use them. So like the PKM is not the greatest at mid-range if you're hitting limbs, but then the M249 is not the greatest at longer range if you're hitting torso. But PKM is definitely better at long range. M249 is better at mid-range. They're about the same out 40 meters. Just depends where you're hitting them, whether it's upper torso, lower torso. They excel over the other one depending on what you're doing. But M249 has a faster fire rate, 858 compared to 669, so more forgiving if you're missing shots. Then your marksman rifles, SKS, decent all around, really good in this mid-range if you're hitting upper torso, but decent overall unless you're hitting limbs. Limbs it's pretty terrible, and then beyond 85 meters it's pretty bad too. M14 is really good up close as long as you're not hitting the limbs, but then beyond that, not very good. Mini 14 is pretty bad up close, but mid-range to long range is good if you're hitting upper torso. Well, that's about it. VSS, really good overall except up close if you're hitting upper torso. But mid to long range, one of the best, if not the best. But again, only 15 round magazine. But then again, all these marksman rifles do have low magazine capacity, but I believe the VSS has full auto capabilities, whereas the other ones are all semi-auto. SVD, not very good at all. I don't know why it's so bad, but it's just terrible compared to the other ones. Maybe it's really accurate. I don't know what would make up for that, but SR25's decent up close, upper torso, but really good if you're hitting lower torso compared to the other weapons, and then really good at mid to long range as well. But beyond 90 meters is not that great, but that's compared to the fastest VSS, but compared to the other ones it's about the same. Then your sniper rifles here, so they're all one-shot headshot to the head at any range. That's how you should be using them. And then depends if you're getting body shots, what's better. So R93, if you're hitting upper and lower torso out to about 55 meters, that's going to be your best time to kill because it has the fastest fire rate. But then the AWM, if you're hitting limbs, it's the fastest killing. So it really depends where you're hitting them, but you shouldn't be shooting them in the body. You should be going for the headshots. Otherwise, the time to kill is horrendous no matter what. So even the fastest sniper rifle body shot time to kill, 1200 milliseconds, is terrible compared to any of the other guns. So definitely should be going for the headshots. And the damage drop off is a little strange too, because in the game it says the damage range is 70 meters, but then when you look at the drop off chart, it drops off at 55. So I'm not sure if using the recon class buffs the range, even though they're the only ones who can use the sniper rifles. But I just used the values that were on the drop off chart and not the stated value of 70 meters in the base stats. So maybe wrong. One of those stats may be wrong, or could have something to do with recon and giving a buff to range, but who knows? I just use the stats based on the chart. And then you have your pistols here. So standout's going to be the G18 full auto. Does the least amount of damage, but has the fastest fire rate by far, 1172 rounds per minute. It's full auto, so the best overall. Has a weird little range here from 30 to 35 meters, where it's not the greatest, but that's only compared to the Deagle. So everywhere else it's the best, or very close to the best. Deagle's really good at mid-range, not the greatest up close. You would think getting headshots with the Deagle would be the way to go, but still not the fastest. Beyond mid-range it's second fastest, but you would think it would be the fastest being a high damage. But 93R is terrible all around. Wouldn't recommend using that. Revolver, pretty bad up close, but then decent at mid to long range. So again, you would think headshot damage would be the way to go, but still not very fast compared to the G18. But probably not going to be able to hit all headshots with the G18 full auto either. So more likely to be able to hit headshots with these Revolver and Deagle. And then the QSZ 92G is terrible. G17 is pretty bad too. So yeah, those are all the time to kill values in the game. So it just helps me to put these charts together to get an idea of how certain guns perform, or if I'm using a certain gun, how to use it to get the most out of it. So it just makes sense to me to compare it, see what guns excel in certain situations versus if I'm using it correctly or not using it correctly. But the balancing seems to be pretty well done, so none of them really stand out above the rest. There's only a few that stand out above all the rest, but they all have their niche uses where they're good at something but not great at other things. So pretty well balanced, I think, with a few exceptions, but really depends what you want to use. So some people prefer more accurate guns that shoot slower. Some people prefer faster firing guns that don't do as much damage but kind of pray and spray. That's the way I like to play. So I like the faster firing guns even if they don't do as much damage, but usually they do okay for time to kill. But yeah, it just helps me to put these charts together to get an idea of how guns perform and then how to use them correctly and get the most out of them, you know. So hopefully that helps you guys too. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything missing in this chart that you think would make it better. That would help be useful information that I don't have in here. But they do have a lot of guns and it's a lot of information gathering and stat gathering and putting it all together, so it takes quite a bit of time. So pretty much just try to put as much as I can in there that makes sense to put in. But yeah, hopefully helps you guys out, and hopefully they don't make too many changes come release time, because gathering all these stats and putting it together took quite a bit of time. So hopefully they don't make too many changes, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, definitely check out Delta Force if you have Steam on PC. It's good for a week, the demo. So from the 14th, October 14th through the 21st, it's going on. So get in there and check it out. But definitely takes quite a bit of time to level up each gun and unlock all the attachments and stuff. So maybe this chart will help you pick which guns you want to use, which guns you want to spend your time on unlocking and leveling up and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.